Hello, everyone, and welcome along to your Tuesday night edition of the TII podcast. Apologies for a couple of minutes late. I was trying to watch as much of the Champions League football as I possibly could in the early kickoffs, and I was going to make a joke about what could have been, but I think it's more thank God that isn't what it was. But yes, I'm joined tonight by JB. It's fair to say it's not been a quiet few days at Rangers. Not sure there's ever a quiet few days at Rangers, but especially not the last couple of days. But JB, you were on Sunday night. Couple more days, couple more developments, I guess, in the landscape of everything. But how are you? Where's your mood and mindset around Rangers at this moment in time?
Yeah, I think it's still deflated, to be honest. I think after Saturday, I think it was just okay, a matter of when. I think I said to a few of you, just refreshing me Twitter timeline, like it was transfer deadline day, just waiting for the announcements, notifications on and everything, and nothing came on the Sunday. And then obviously we podded, and I thought we're going to get breaking news here whilst we're on. If I remember rightly, I think I was on when we announced Clement. I think maybe it was live. It kind of the news broke, and we were able to react. And then Monday came and went, and then when somebody had an exclusive to say conversations have been had with Martin and the board, and or certainly Martin and Andrew Kavanagh, and then it was almost a case of right, he's staying. But then obviously then the pictures come out yesterday from Loch Lomond and stuff. So it is just honest. I said on Sunday, I'm convinced it's a social experiment to see how far we can push people before they actually combust following a football team. But no, we'll get into it anyway. So hopefully we'll try and smile our way through this, even if it's through gritted teeth.
Yeah, absolutely. I think up until Saturday, I was probably in the right. He's really struggling, but we still need to give him a wee bit of time. I can see both sides of it and a lot of things in terms of whole new squad, trying to get was it 11 players in, 14 players out, or something along those kind of lines. Trying to put in a new style of play, spoken about the culture in the club and everything like that beforehand. Like there's a lot going on here. New owners, new way of doing things, new way of being. There's a lot going on here. We've made it to the playoff round of the Champions League. Fair enough, got absolutely hammered in that, but we made it to that. We're in the Europa League. This is going to click at some point. Like it can't just keep going this way, but it seems to be getting worse. And I think Saturday was the day where I was just like, I'm out. Like I'm just not in this anymore. I can't. It might be the right person in the long run. I'm not willing to find out. I'm not willing to wait to find out, to be honest. It's done for me. It's done for the vast majority. I'm probably one of the last ones that's reached that point, to be fair, but I'm just completely out on this, and I can't see how a new ownership has gone through 7 interviews, got to Russell Martin, then watched however many games it's been, is it 10 or 12 games so far, and then went, you know what, this is still worth working, this is still worth sticking with, where we can still win a league, we can still win a trophy. We're not going to be we're not going to be far behind. We'll be in a title race. How is anyone, even if you know nothing about Rangers and nothing about Scottish football, which the new owners will, they'll know a lot more than that, and they'll have done their due diligence, and they'll have been around and spoken to everyone, and they'll understand a lot about the history of the club and everything like that. So how are they not making this decision at this point, do you think, JB?
There's a couple of things kind of going through my mind. If you kind of take a step back and take the emotion out of it, of obviously us being Rangers fans, if you think of it, if it was like a business or if it was a club that you weren't attached to, I think there's, and you kind of think about, okay, right, is it a good message for the board as their first kind of big decision to bring in a manager? The first thing that the fans don't like, we then change straight away. Are you then setting a precedent to say we bring somebody else in, and after 3 months they don't like this new manager, we get rid of him? Do you know? And like, is there a little bit of that? I don't know. Is there a little bit of they haven't got somebody else lined up, as in they've maybe soundboarded caretaker managers, and they go, where do we go? It's all right
Yeah.
saying there'll be everybody would love to manage Rangers. I don't think they would, if I'm being perfectly honest.
I
You've
also
only
don't
got.
think there's an. I also don't think there's an obvious candidate out there
I
that
don't.
you're looking at
I
and
don't.
going, they
I
could
don't.
step straight in.
Yeah, because if you think about when Barry Ferguson was announced last year, I think I must have been the Grim Reaper because I'm sure that I was on when Barry Ferguson had just been announced, and I can remember everyone just going, "What is this?" Now, as it happened, again, time will be kind to Barry Ferguson because I think there was a couple of really good results in there. If I think about the Fenerbahce home and away performances, the Old Firm away performance, so they were in there, so you kind of hold on to them. But for every one of them, there was going 2-0 down in every single game, pretty much. There was home defeats, and home defeats was I can't remember now, was it St Mirren and Hibs maybe? There was the comeback against Kilmarnock. So again, it was pros and cons, but I just look around and I wonder, have they soundboarded a few people out to take this on a caretaker basis, and then they've just turned around and gone, nah, I don't fancy it.
I
If
very
you look,
much think I said to Ian. I said to Ian at the game. I can't remember if I said on the podcast post match against Hearts, but I very much think this is an ownership and a way of working that it'll be similar to what we saw with Nottingham Forest in terms of the manager will be out the door one night and then the next morning there'll be an appointment. It won't be. There's not going to be weeks between.
no.
It's not going. I'd be very doubtful there would be a caretaker at all. Like I very much think it would be out the door at night
Yeah.
and then next morning someone else is announced.
And is that what's holding things up? Is that other manager at a club? Is the next manager? Because let's have it right. There's no point in beating around the bush. He's gone. He's done. Do you know, like it's a matter of when rather than if. So I think it's almost a case of, as fans, we kind of wanted him gone. As in, he should have went. He should have went after Bruges. People could argue. Well, first of all, there'll be the camp that'll say he should never have been here. I was one of the ones, very similar to you, Craig, who tried to look at the positives, despite everybody telling me, look who he's managed, look at the results that he's had, look at the way he finished up at Southampton. I was kind of a view of, right, take that away, and then what you then do is you surround him with give him good players, give him a good strong coaching team, and then give him a good support network above him. I don't think he's got a good coaching team. By all accounts, his assistant manager seems like a really nice guy. We've passed him a few times in press conferences and stuff. He sits at the back and kind of takes it all in. And I know a few of the other lads from a couple of the fan medias have met him and say he's a really good guy and stuff. So that one you kind of go, yeah, he's his sounding board, he's his pal. But then obviously then the other coaches that we've brought in to support them, just I remember a few years ago, John Bennett saying best in class. You don't take a fella who's been at Gateshead and sacked from Carlisle and expect him to walk through the doors of Rangers and then to be a best in class coach.
Yeah.
So I do wonder whether that piece is we're not going to go down the caretaker manager, and we are working on bringing in a permanent manager. And to your point, he's going to go one day and then the new manager is going to get announced the next. We've seen that with a lot of our signings. And as you say, that's the way that Leeds have operated in terms of the way that they've gone through transfers. I think they even done it with managers. I don't think there was almost a speculation. It was almost a case of he's gone today, there's your new manager tomorrow.
Yeah.
I can't foresee them doing the saga that was done with this recruitment, because even you've got to have it right. This recruitment was a bit of a shambles if you think about the time it took to announce. And then bang, we were straight into a pre-season, and then bang, we were straight into the Champions League qualifiers.
I think it was. It's difficult to say if it was a shambles or not because I think, and maybe it looks a bit of a shambles now, but to me at the time it looked as though they were taking their time to get the right person, and they were almost like it's worth the risk as long as we get the right person. The difficulty now is they took all that time. They didn't give the run up to the season and the run up to pre-season that was needed, and the guys turned into a shambles. Like I think that's the issue. If they took that time and then the guy gets going pretty quickly, and you're like, right, okay, stuck there. They made it difficult for themselves there, but it worked.
Yeah,
it's not that at all.
Most definitely. No, I think there's definitely that. I mean, and there's just back to the manager as well, because he's got such an unlikability. there's kind of no hiding place for him. So the players' performance has been scandalous. Let's have that right as well. So therefore, but Russell Martin deflected all of that because of his behaviour in terms of the way that he's handled press conferences, the way he's deflected from his own tactics. I think the Rangers fans would respect him a hell of a lot more if he'd have come out and said, "Got it wrong today." I was listening to something. I was listening to something earlier today, and it was referenced about Gerrard and how good Gerrard was in terms of that man management piece. In terms of if we had a poor performance, he'd go out in front it and say, Right, today wasn't right. I need to have a look at myself. I need to have a look at the tactics I've done." There was one game where I think he came out and said, "I think I had them two up for it," almost as if they were going into battle. And then, but we didn't need to. We should have just played football. And there was a number of situations as you went through the Gerrard 2 or 3 years where he fine tuned himself because he wasn't perfect on day one. But one thing I kind of felt under Gerrard was he's feeling our pain. And there was even games, I've said it a few times, when we played well. There was a team we were beating 3-0 at half. Was it 3-0 at half time? I think it was Dundee at home on a cold November. And they went through and come out at full time. I think the game finished 4-0. And he was raging at full time. He said, "Them fans have worked all week and looked forward to coming to see this, and we only give them 45 minutes." Now, that's a positive example. But then if you think about the times when things weren't going well, you kind of just knew that he'd be raging, he'd be fuming, he'd be gutted, he'd be going into that changing room, and there'd be rollicans getting handed out if they were needed. I don't think this fella has got that in him. I think he's going home thinking, "I'm right, all them are wrong," and that's the way he's trying to deflect. He said something in his press the other day. "I'm trying to relax the players by telling everything's aimed at me. It's not aimed at you. You go and enjoy yourself." It's almost like poor old me. They all think I'm the bad guy, but really it should be used. And obviously he's tried to hang a few people out as well as he's passed. So yeah, it's not going to go on. So I think it's almost a case of where do we go next? That could be the name of the kind of any future pods that we've got lined up. But I think we've just got to, as a fan base, is kind of just react accordingly and do, and then try and support for those that are going the game on Saturday. And I do expect it to be really low numbers. Is we've got whoever's in there has got to support the players. You've got to park the managers, I think, for that 90 minutes. We can't afford to get knocked out of the League Cup. We can't afford to use the Russell Martin situation as an excuse not to back the team on Saturday.
Does
However,
that surprise you? I guess as I was saying during the international break to a few people I was speaking to, that you come in after the international break, you beat Hearts, you beat Hibs, and actually you buy yourself some time. We're at the opposite end of that spectrum, which I was also chatting about, where you lose to Hearts and you lose to Hibs and your season's over,
yeah,
pretty much, bar a
you've had
Scottish Cup.
Scottish Cup, and then you're genuinely looking at a fight for a European spot.
Yeah,
Like, and
because
I'm not,
I think I tried to work out what the average points difference was between second and third place when Rangers have finished second. You're looking at like 15 to 18 points, I
we're
think,
there.
roughly about,
We're there.
and we're already 9 points behind Hearts. At
Yeah,
this stage, it's gradually getting further and further away, and it's how long can
yeah.
you stick that out for?
Well, I can't remember whether I said it on air or off air on Sunday with the lads. Everything's merging into one. But what happens if Hearts are 10 points clear of us come the January transfer window, and they bring in a couple of superstars on loan from Brighton? Do you know, like they use the business model and the contacts that they've got, and then they just absolutely blow us apart for the
Yeah.
second half of the season. They go on because they haven't got all they've got to do is be the best of the rest. Do you know what I mean? They haven't got to worry about beating Celtic. They haven't got to worry about beating us. Do you know what I mean? They could all of a sudden a draw against us is a good result for them. And that's not assuming that Hibs don't refine the form that they found at the tail end of last season. If they go on a little run, all of a sudden you're battling for third and fourth. And if you're not careful, then things could go horrifically wrong. A new manager's not going to fix this overnight as well. Can't expect a new manager to come in and then we're going to go on a 15-game winning run because some
No,
of
I
these
don't. I
players.
don't think we'll go straight on a 15-game winning run. But I actually have confidence that we've got a good squad. I have
Yeah,
confidence that we've
yeah,
got. It's just they're not playing the way that is to their strengths, and they're not
yeah.
playing in a way that's suitable to what we're coming up against. I think it's the combination of those two, and I think if a manager got them set up in the right way, these players would do well. I think, to be honest.
I agree with that, but I also think, to the point back to last season, that team that Barry Ferguson took over, every single team we played in domestic football, our team was better than theirs, and there was at times we really struggled. Do you know what I mean? If you think about certainly that Hibs at home game was a shocker. Do you know what I mean? That was two going on 4 or 5, if I remember, on the day. And then we weren't creating a lot of chances. And I think there'll be a lot of bad habits that we'll need to lose quite quickly. One thing Fergie done was the big games. He got us up for it. Do you know what I mean? So he got us up for Bilbao at home. He got us up for Celtic away. He got us up for Fenerbahce. Do you know what I mean? So all of these things, the big games, with the big game players were there. It was the domestic games where it was.
You could say Russell Martin was up for the Old Firm game, couldn't you?
Really? Yeah, you could argue that on the day there was just probably a lack of quality on the day, but we were set up, and you could see that there was a game plan to do. But it was almost, part of me now thinks, was it Russell Martin or was it the players on the day then done what they've done over the years and then raised the game in a game there they go, this is super important. And then it's come to Hearts on Saturday and they've gone, well, we played well against Celtic the other week, so if we play like that, we'll be okay. But then if you don't play like that...
It's just where is how much is down to Russell Martin, how much is down to the players, how much down to a combination. Because the way we play on Saturday, it's the exact same team as we played against Celtic, with about a quarter of the intensity, a quarter of the desire, a quarter of the focus and the want to win. There's a really small fraction of what we saw against Celtic was it came into that game against Hearts. You approached that game against Hearts with the same intensity as you did that game against Celtic. I'm not saying you're going to get a different outcome because we're still not creating chances, but you got a very different type of game.
Yeah. There was no pressing at all on Saturday. It was so relaxed. It was unbelievable. Without picking on John Suter because it's easy to do. There was a few times on Saturday where Braga literally just made a 5-yard run off him, and he was in. All of a sudden, he was in yards and yards of space.
Yeah.
Go with him. He was the highest man. Like, why are you holding the line at that point when you've got your centre half next to you and your fullback who's sitting? Go with your man, press him, be aggressive, be hard, be horrible, and we just don't seem to have it in us. And at some point, for me, the players have got to take responsibility, and because it's all right to say Russell Martin this, Russell Martin that. The players at some point have either got to go, I'm playing for this manager and I'm going to listen to every single word, or I'm going to start playing for myself. Because what's going to happen is once he's gone and a new manager comes in who might have a bit more of a likability. So say we bring in a Gerrard or we bring in, I'm not going to say Mourinho because that's still dreamboat stuff. But say we brought Gerrard in who could be a realistic one, albeit I don't foresee that happening with all of the family stuff. He'll come in with a likability and he'll come in with a try and unite everyone. What will happen quite quickly is the fans will then start to really microscope onto some of these players and say, like, obviously Tav has had it tight for the last few years. The focus will be back on the players again, and almost say that these players just aren't good enough, or these players aren't doing enough. These players aren't working hard enough, and that's the bit that we're going to need to get over. I think the players need to start proving themselves. Other than Asgard the other day, I don't think anyone was anywhere near pass marks, and I thought Asgard just done okay. I mean, somebody made the point, I think it might have been Ian on Saturday, he was blown away by the fact that Chimiti made a 10-yard run, pulled it down, laid it off, and then moved. And it was like, oh my, that's what we've been pulled into, that we're grabbing on. And this is what, as fans, we want to do. We want to grab onto any positives that are there, but it's just a real struggle at the moment to find anything that we can relate to. There's not one part of our team that I would say I'm comfortable with that. We haven't got a centre half pairing. The fullbacks don't get forward. The wingers don't hit the byline. They want to cut inside where it's dead busy. We haven't got a striker that you could hang your hat on. They don't hold the ball up. The midfield three is weak and slow, and just looks absolutely all over the place. So you kind of go, well, what are we working with here? Do you know what I mean? It's just really bad. But that said, yeah. We'll see how Saturday goes.
Thought you were going to try and find that positive there, but
I'm
you
just
just
going
said
to cry.
we'll see how Saturday goes.
I have got a positive actually.
There you go.
For anyone that's in the Merseyside area on Friday, we've actually got Gordon Smith coming to the Wirral Range Supporters Club to do a night for us. So that is a positive that we have got to look forward to. So just drop us a message on Twitter or drop us a comment in here. I'll give you your locations. I might do a cheeky little discount for any This Is Ibrox subscribers.
Right.
So yeah, we've got that on Friday.
It's not really a positive on the pitch, JB, but I
Yeah.
guess in terms of looking forward, a lot of attention now is turning to Kevin Thelwell, to Patrick Stewart, particularly after the backing for Russell Martin came out. It was on Sunday. Almost like it's turning away from Russell Martin, because no one expects Russell Martin to walk away from compensation. No one expects Russell Martin to walk away from a job he's just been given 2 months ago. So they then turns to the decision makers. What do you make of them, and do you think they will be swayed or can be swayed by fan pressure, or do you think they are just, we made a decision, we know why we made it, we know where we're trying to get to, there's been a lot of change,
Yeah. They're almost, I mean, I know both me and you have both recruited people over the years in terms of the jobs that we do.
Yeah.
And one of the things you do naturally have then is an affection and you want them to do well. Do you know what I mean? That that's your person. You brought them in. You want to back them. You want to give them as much support as they can in both the good days and the bad days. The challenge these two have now got is, would we trust them to bring in the new manager, the next manager? I personally haven't seen anything I don't go as far to say I haven't seen anything in the signings or the profile of the signings that give me confidence that these guys have fully grasped what Scottish football is all about. Now, I'm hoping and praying that they've at least now had 3 months to understand we can't have a manager that is going to have this type of approach to football. They can't be identifying players, some of the players, and some of the loan players that have come in just have really struggled with the ask. I'll compare, maybe if you could maybe compare Cornelius, who comes in, who's come from Marseille, an environment with a really demanding background. I think he's going to be absolutely fine. He looked despite it being very volatile on Saturday, he come in and was very composed, kept doing the same thing, kept looking for forward passes, kept offering. Again, I said on Sunday, unlucky with his goal. You compare him to some of the other players that have come in, i.e. Max Aarons. You could argue he's got a lot more Premier League experience, British experience. That kid looks terrified in a blue shirt. So therefore, he wasn't a good signing. He wasn't someone that you go, he's going to work in Scottish football. And there's a few of them that just look a million miles away from it. The boy who's obviously come in from Everton, Chimiti. Again, I've probably seen more of them than probably most Rangers fans in the fact that I do keep an eye on Everton's results, and when he has featured, I've probably seen near enough every minute that he's played. I don't think he'll be suited to the Scottish football game either, given the fact that he's certainly not suited to be a Rangers number 9 and the asks that have come with that. I'm praying to God that he is, because we can't afford to be dropping £8 million like that. But in terms of certainly if we were focusing that very much on Thelwell, but in terms of Patrick Stewart, he just doesn't know how to read the room. I think in terms of some of his behaviours since he's been in, it's been really uncomfortable. I read something today, I don't know whether it's how true it is and how validated it is, in terms of the club were quite keen to bring back Jim McAllister as the kit man, and he kind of put the hand up to that to say no. Now, obviously, there was a background to why Jim McAllister did leave the club in the first time round, and whether that's then irked people at a senior level. But it's a brand new board. It's a brand new playing squad. James Tavernier was here and said what a great job this fella had done last time. So therefore, you're trying to build that unity, and then Russell Martin apparently give it the green light, and then Patrick Stewart turn around and go, no, he's not welcome back. So he's not helping himself. His statements on the fans last year was really poor, and it just he's not that. It doesn't strike me as the type of guy you want going to war for you. The refereeing decisions over the weekend were absolutely scandalous, and it's been brushed over from pretty much everyone, given the fact that there's more important stuff going on. But you just know that he's not going into the SFA and he's not demanding answers from the referees. They would across the way. Do you know what I mean? And there was situations where they wanted John Beaton last season or the season before to come out and have to explain his decisions to the public and stuff like that. We probably had more of a case on Saturday for demanding answers, but you just know he's that weak that he wouldn't have done it. It would just be a case of we'll move on. We don't want to upset anyone. We don't want to rock the boat. And if it's to be believed what the rumours that go around, he was kind of the main man behind the Russell Martin appointment. So again, has he got a good judgment there? I know Kevin Thelwell was still in his Everton job up until the 1st of July, but I don't think he really had garden leave. He was kind of just supporting with all the interview process and is to blame as well. I'm more focused on Thelwell with the players as opposed to this particular management recruitment, albeit he would have had a say. But the pair of them are not covering themselves in glory. I was pleased with Thelwell's interview after the international break. I thought it was timely. I thought I agreed with what a lot he said, and I was quite pleased with that. But that all unravels quite quickly if you can't read the room and be brave enough to make a decision and admit you got something wrong.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. The Union Bears came out yesterday, I want to say, and basically said that enough's enough. And if Russell Martin isn't removed from his position, there will be protests starting from, or action taken, I think it was, around protests by fans starting from this weekend. They said they would inform of more details around what action they have planned later on in the week if no action is taken. Firstly, a bit strange having fan protests on both sides of the city at the same time, which is a bit, not sure that's how many times that's happened before, but how effective can fan protests be, JB? I mean, we've got new ownership who are completely external, no real affinity to fans or no real affinity to the club outside of wanting their business to be a success, effectively. We've got new people at the head of the football structure. Patrick Stewart's only been in since January. Then get Kevin Thelwell, who's been in since July, 2-3 months. Same with the manager. I mean, realistically, how big an impact do you think fan protests can have at this stage, and how much do you think it will just create some noise but fall on deaf ears ultimately?
Yeah, I think it could be massive. Unlike your Premier League clubs where they actually don't need the fans. Do you know what I mean? If you look at their percentage of income, it's a very small amount. Is probably via ticket sales, and there's probably for most clubs they could probably fill stadiums out a couple of times round with just because of the external demand for tickets. Excuse me. Slight difference with Rangers income is very much generated through fan behaviour, whether it be through merchandise, whether it be season tickets, whether it be through my schemes, all these things that were a cash cow for the club. To just take the COVID season, I think we sold 40 odd thousand season tickets. Do you know what I mean? And people didn't request refunds and stuff like that. So the club the fans will run with the club as long as you give us something to run with. And I think I'm a big believer that if the fans do go to town, so whether it be boycotts of merchandise on match day, boycotts of New Edmonds House. These aren't ideas or suggestions, by the way. But if they go down that route, then the business head of your Andrew Kavanaghs and stuff are going to look at this and go, we can't make a lot of money yet. These are the people that we're going to make our money off. It's not TV revenue. I don't think it's going to be Europa League money in terms of prize money this year, but judging by what I'm seeing so far, as soon as they start to get the alarms of seeing Saturday with the reduced crowd, seeing the people cancelling their CCS on mass, the attendance on Thursday, they'll the following Thursday, sorry, they'll start to go, wait a minute, we've just lost the best part of a couple of million in terms of all of these things just over the last couple of weeks. this is unsustainable. It's going to be cheaper for us to relieve Russell Martin than it is to keep him in post. And we could almost do with anybody in that dugout, and it'll change. I tell you something for nothing. If he gets punted tonight, which I obviously don't think he will, or tomorrow, and we had a new manager in that dugout on Saturday, you just watch the way that the crowd react to that situation. Ticket sales will increase, and that's what we are fickle. Do you know what I mean? We'll move on quite quickly, and we'll fall in love with another manager and give him our back really quickly. But this fella just, because he hasn't even got that likability, people are just at the end of the tether with it. So I think the quicker the change gets done, the less need there'll be for all this uproar and disruption. But I think Saturday you're going to see a massive financial impact to the club, and that'll be the first warning sign for the new ownership of how important the fan base is.
Yeah, looking ahead, I mean, we've got a podcast on Thursday night, so we won't do too much looking ahead to Saturday. But looking at this stage of the week, the two scenarios, I'm going to say three scenarios, but you can't really get a draw in a cup game, can you? So the two scenarios, we managed to find a way to go through, whether that's in the 90 minutes and extra time or in penalties. We managed to find a way to go through.
I told you about drinking midweek.
That doesn't, for me, that wouldn't change anything. It'd be relief that the season isn't over, but it wouldn't change anything. Is that how you would feel as well?
Yeah, most definitely. I don't think Saturday's results makes a difference, and I don't think the European game the following week or Livingston makes a difference. It could be 3 wins from 3. It's just not. Even if that happens, this isn't going to turn around, because what will happen the 4th game, 5th game, 6th game, whatever game that number is, and we drop points, or we drop a poor performance in Europe, a knocked out of a cup in potentially the next round, whatever that might be, that will be the next crisis point, and it's unsustainable, and it just can't happen. So even if we win on Saturday, to your original question, I can't foresee it making much difference. And if we get beat, then I think there'll be hell to pay in terms of the response. Hearts on Saturday was bad enough. I mean, there was actually more people. There's more people in the crowd left than certain games over previous years where we've won games, because they genuinely wanted to stay and just show their absolute disgust with the performance and the thoughts on the management team. So yeah, it's going to be Saturday's going to be interesting, and it's a shame, because it should be a really good game that we should be looking forward to, because you're coming up against what should be seen as probably the 3rd or 4th best team in Scotland under the lights, in a cup. Is it quarterfinal stage? I lose track of what round they are. The quarterfinals of a cup, with a view to Hampden's waiting for us. However, it's one of them. I don't think I haven't spoken to anyone that is looking forward to it or thought about the actual win, lose or draw. I think everybody's just thinking about who's going to be in that dugout, and I think everybody's preparing for war. In the fact that it's almost the case of you getting yourself. I think everyone's going to go into that game on Saturday as if we've already lost the game.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There might be a minority, and you don't want to speak on behalf of all Rangers fans, but I think people are going to go into that really deflated and expecting the players and the management team to give us something to get behind. Unless we go 1-0, 2-0 up in the first 10-15 minutes, they're not going to run with it. And I'm dreading Saturday, but I'm also looking forward to it as well, because that's what we do.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think and it's a really dangerous position at the moment. You've seen it and spoken about in various places on the radio, on wherever, and basically you'd never see a manager, Rangers or Celtic, come back once the fans turn like they have done against Russell Martin. You never see them recover. It's always just a stay of execution from that. And I always think it's a really dangerous place for a manager and a team to be when fans are turning up, sitting back and going, right, show me what you've got.
Yeah.
Because it's almost impossible to win
from
that position for the players.
He's genuinely in a no-win. He's genuinely in a no-win situation as he goes into the next few weeks. if we win 5-0 on Saturday and the football's glorious, as I say, and then we go in and we beat Genk, but then we go and draw with Livingston, it's like,
Yeah.
All three games over the next couple of weeks are just as massive as each other. But I think in some people's eyes, the football's irrelevant at the moment. Everything's just going to be focused on what does that look like. And I think it's one of the reasons is just because someone made a really good point on, might have been one of the pods last week. This is just 10 years of frustration, just getting absolutely thrown at one person. And I think that's because we can for me, it's because we can't see the effort. And they're coming from what feels like coming from the side or coming on the pitch. And I think that has to be a non-negotiable. We've had worse Rangers players and Rangers squads than this, and we felt as if we know they're not good enough, but we still expect them to give it a go. You think about Gerrard's first season and the squad that he built there. There was some average players within that squad, but one thing you kind of felt especially in the big games is, you know what, they're going out and they're giving it their all. If you look at the performance away in Russia when we went down to 9 men, do you know, it was like there was a real fight there and a real determination and and I appreciate the standard of opposition on the night wasn't great, but you almost felt as if, right, they're going to run through brick walls for that manager there. Whereas you could send this team. Imagine if this team went down to 9 men against Alloa at home the other week. Alloa would have ran over the top of us, no bother. They ran over the top of us with 11 men. Imagine if they'd have been 9 men and it was in Russia. It doesn't bear thinking about. So I think I think it's going to be a really interesting week. But I think that's what, as back to the social experiment that is Rangers Football Club, it's going to be a strap in, and we'll see where we go.
Yeah, final question, just because we've not really touched on it, and and most other times it's a non-story whatsoever, but obviously the Rangers players were pictured doing some cold water therapy, let's call it, and at Lochloman they were also up Conic Hill, I believe. What do you make of that, JB? I think you see that every now and again in terms of a manager, a coaching team just trying to do anything to change it, to change the environment that they're in, the mindset, to have that team bonding side of things. Again, it feels like a no-win situation, but I'm not sure I get why they would put themselves in that situation, especially after the weekend that there just was. You'd almost think, actually, just can this a couple of weeks and see where we are.
Yeah, it's our beer by the pools in Dubai moment, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? During the COVID season, and then Lennon sitting by the pool with a half pint of lager, like that's our moments. That's that bit where you go, can this get any more laughable? Yeah, it can. Do you know what I mean? Russell Martin, hold me cabbage, like I'll just jump in the pool, yeah. Yeah, it's God knows what's going through some of the players' heads. They must just be like that. What am I doing here? It's wild. I agree. There's 1,000 other things they could have done in private environment. They could have got a magician into the training ground. They could have got entertainment into the training ground. They could have went go-kart, and there's 1,000 things they could have done behind closed doors. What you don't do is pick one of the most visited places in Scotland, and I don't know whether it was almost like a planned. Was it planted to try and go, oh, look what we're doing, we're looking, trying to make things happy? I thought the training video on Friday was quite telling, and some of the images that come out after the training video on Friday. I think I commented it was almost a bit like the meme where the house is on fire, the hospital's on fire behind them, and he's going, everything's fine. Like there was all big team pictures, all hugging each other. The training videos were showing them goal scoring and celebrating and all hugging. At least there was no wheelbarrows. But it just, I just don't think it's not kidded anyone. I doubt it's been set up to try and kid someone. As I've said a few times, I think it's just he's thrown another dart at the board to try and to see if it sticks. But at the end of the day, you're going to ask one of the players in terms of what did they think of it. Was it a good thing? They're naturally going to come around and say, oh, it's a really good idea, we had a good day. Players seem to be quite relaxed in the environment and stuff, and the one or two fans that managed to grab a couple of pictures said, "Oh, the players all seemed in good spirits," type of thing. But yeah, it's not for me, and it's quite interesting when you hear some of the ex-players that have come out today to say, yeah, we've done stuff. You do stuff like that, but you certainly don't do it in the public eye, and you definitely don't do it during the season, and you definitely don't do it after a really poor performance done on Saturday. I just don't think it's helpful, and I think it's just another thing that points towards the beginning of the end.
Yeah, I think it's done. It's just a matter of when, not if. So on that cheery note, I think we'll round off tonight's podcast. An extra 10 minutes or so than we'd normally go, but there's obviously just a lot of going around, a lot of emotion, a lot to talk about. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you to JB as well. If you've not subscribed, please do make sure you subscribe to the TI YouTube channel or our Spotify or Apple Music platforms. Helps us massively, means you don't miss out on any content at all. The guys will be back on Thursday night for the next podcast, building up to the game on Saturday against Hibs, and JB and I will be in attendance at Ibrox for our sons on Saturday night, so make sure you watch out for that post-match reaction after the post-match press conferences as well. But thanks very much, everyone, for listening. Until next time.